Welcome to Enterprise AI Podcast. Today we are going to explore a shift that's becoming increasingly important as AI moves from experimentation to infrastructure. Over the past 2 years, we've seen explosive growth in AI-assisted coding tools and agentic AI systems. Developers are more productive than ever, autonomous workflows are becoming viable, and background agents are starting to operate continuously. But there is a critical question that remains. What happens when these agents move from local experimentation into corporate production environments? How do we maintain control? How do we enforce boundaries? And how do we ensure traceability and compliance? Today, I'm joined by Roman Klis, an engineer, researcher, and founder of TaskForge. Roman holds a PhD from ETH in Zurich. He has experience in industrial environments such as PMI and Johnson Electric and participated in the Zurich NASA hackathon. His perspective on AI is shaped not by hype, but by systems engineering discipline. TaskForge is his attempt to solve a foundational problem. How do we employ OpenClaw-like AI agents inside corporate environments while maintaining control over execution, permissions, and supply chains? This conversation is not about making AI smarter. It's about making AI deployable. So welcome, Roman.
Welcome, Stefan. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I think many organizations today, they invest a lot in AI capability without clearly defining what impact it is supposed to create. And intelligence alone does not improve organizational performance. And AI only creates impact when it is applied to what I call high leverage decisions that are explicitly owned, and when the execution of those decisions is also governed and accountable.
Yeah, that's all correct. And I fully agree with that point of view. Moreover, I would say that there is a sense of deja vu with AI application within organizations, because the same story repeats as with the data science. There are high hopes around AI that it can do really a lot of stuff, and it's able to do some amazing things. To unlock that capabilities, one has to have a proper, not only tools, but also proper people on board to trigger that. Yeah. And some of those technologies are still in a very almost research and development state, like all the discussions which are around agents.
That has been my feeling and understanding too, that we are pretty much living in the experiment, in the innovation of these capabilities, and how to build system around them and how to control and make them useful and safe in a corporate environment. And as I said before, it's not just about owning the decisions, it's also about owning the execution. Because, I mean, if you just decide things without execution, nothing happens.
Yes, that's correct. And that was one of my starting points for looking into how one could safely include agentic capabilities within an organization in like a safe and vendor orthogonal way, so that we're not really tidying ourselves to any particular provider, because it's very, you're actually putting yourself into a lot of risk once you do that stuff. So the starting point for kind of this TaskForge platform, which I authored, was absolute fascination with what OpenClaw is able to do. That was really amazing to see what kind of this actually simple idea of allowing LLM to fully control a machine, where this approach can be. The very first moment I've seen OpenClaw, I was like, it's such a good idea, and it's such a bad idea at the same time. I don't know if you share the same feelings about that.
Yeah, I mean, OpenClaw is. I was actually kind of mind blown when I saw it when it started to kind of trickle out, because it's so intuitive and it's so simple, so you understand directly what is it actually do in terms of the necessary component that it needs to have to function. But then, as you say, if you don't control it in any way, it can do a lot of things that you don't want it to do. And I think this famous social media platform that all these Clawbots built and entered, it just took off in a way that I think scared some people. But I was actually amazed by it, because you have to let the simulation run its course to be able to see what it can actually do.
Yeah, I fully agree. It was, every day at some points in like a month ago, more or less, every day I was waking up, I've seen like somebody came up with an absolute new idea for doing some stuff. Like every single day there was a new thing coming in. And then I started to observe that. I was a little bit too skeptical to even install it on my own computer at this point, because I've seen there are so many risks around that stuff which you don't want to touch, really. Yeah. So I thought that it's able to do really amazing things. How we could plug that capability in a controlled way so that it's safe for individuals and safe for organizations to play around with. Yeah, at least to play around with. Yeah. And that was the starting point for this TaskForge platform, to have to little bit remove a couple of degrees of freedom from this OpenClaw, or actually now it starts to evolve a little bit away from OpenClaw to be agent agnostic platform, and to limit its ability to install new dependencies within the machine it controls. So I started to follow a couple of principles, security principles, which are around that, like immutable execution environment. I tried to kind of follow up on logic, which I'm quite familiar with, how capabilities are provided to the developers within IT organizations. So you don't install that yourself. Like for audience, which actually is not really within larger organizations. In larger organizations, you're not allowed to install things yourself. You need to go via the approval process. And you're kind of feeded a safe versions which are mentored, overseen, or kind of governed by your organization. So the so-called supply chain is controlled for the organization. So I wanted to kind of recreate the same train of thought and process.
Yes, I think it's a very important aspect, because if you run an enterprise, a corporation, there is a lot of things that you don't want to happen, and maybe you operate in a regulated environment, and if things go wrong, maybe you will be heavily fined, or you will lose clients, or there can be other sorts of disasters that you don't want to happen. So controllability is one thing that you need to have. And when we talk about controlling decisions and also how to trigger execution on back of that controlled decision. It might be a question of what is allowed to exist in this environment and for what purpose. So I was thinking that maybe we should try to position the TaskForge in the AI stack. Where does it sit in relation to other things?
I would say it evolves into the position of governance. So this is a tool which might be attractive for medium, larger enterprises in its end shape, which would like to have which would like to be sure that the agent is actually not stepping outside of particular boundaries. And now we would have to look a little bit how those boundaries are implemented usually in those kind of systems. So there is usually some overseeing LLM system, which has like a governance layer on top, which are usually text libraries or guardrails. And then LLM compares that with whatever its sub-agent is able to do. Now, this method is unfortunately quite prone to potential motives attack. So because you can have like a prompt injection methodologies and so on. Here, what TaskForge does, it does it a little bit differently. It really mimics this flow, as I mentioned, that LLM agent or agentic system or OpenClaw, might be Cloud Code or whatever else somebody was like to implement there in the system, is actually flagging or raising a request for its raised capabilities to operator. And now you or operator or developer, so this human component responsible for taking decision is still there, is informed that, okay, agent would like to install a particular library. And the justification for that is as follows. The operator reviews that, approves that, and then what happens is something super interesting, which we'll debug later on. The previous working environment is being taken away from the agent. New working environment with extended capability is being built on site, is being frozen, and then it's handed over to the agent. So that the agent little bit is not able really to do anything, to use any software which is not allowed to use in that constraint. Things are around it frozen. Think about like a desk where you have to ask for an option to move a particular things there. This creates a sense of safety.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. It's like building a totally contained environment where you hand over this, as you say, this well-defined, contained environment where the agent is allowed to exist.
Yeah, exactly. And it operates within the boundaries. So you have a very good guidance over, or you're even sure that it won't step out from that boundaries because it's constrained.
And I think this must have some real profound impact in the developments we are seeing today, where you have more AI-assisted coding and the speed of the whole process just increases. So if there is no control limits or bump indicators or something like that on the road, it can end in a disaster.
Absolutely. That's why we even on the road we like with speed limits and regulations which tell us what kind of things are allowed and what kind of things are not allowed. Yeah. And this basically replicates that approach. That we are sure that we are able to whatever we're handing over to that entity or LLM tool is not going to go behind whatever it's able to do there. Yeah. So I think this is very important. And also as an extra thing, a lot of stuff like auditability of the code, a lot of stuff like traceability full software bill of material. This is provided by the platform Autonomy.
Yeah, if something happens, you need to be able to trace back what happened, where did it go wrong, where can the system learn from what actually happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's this kind of visibility is extremely important as long as we humans are in the loop, and we want to have the look and feel. We want to seeing is believing in some way, and being able to control that what we see is actually what happens, and that also coincides to what we want to happen. And I think a lot of organizations today that are ahead when it comes to AI-assisted coding, they maybe have a lot of activities where they let developers in their company or in their teams work quite freely with innovation and creating new apps, applications, or solutions in a more innovative sandbox type environment. But then you have to also be able to deploy these solutions into a production environment.
Yeah. That's 100% right. And usually the step is, I would say, end user heavy. One aspect and kind of the reason why Lovable was so powerful and it was so popular was because it reduced the complexity on that step. With one click, you were able to deploy the application and have it running. Leaving aside how well it runs, but it worked extremely well and it was very well designed. TaskForge platform also has this component that you are able to deploy the solution. I wouldn't use here word to production but at least to showcase this to internal users within the organization. Yes. So it's very easy for you to for instance, today I would be state like a problem. Today I would like to work on integration between two SaaS systems. And I have this one virtual machine on which I would like to deploy this TaskForge platform. And thanks to the OpenClaw, which is kind of deployed in a constrained way on this virtual machine, you're able to build the connectivity to both ends of the SaaS software and have the solution almost shaped like a clay for you, which is super powerful, I would say.
Yeah, it sounds amazing and extremely innovative. Should we take a look at the platform?
Absolutely. I'm really happy to share it, and let me just share the screen now. The TaskForge platform can be accessed here on the GitHub repository. This is a MIT license project where everybody is able to contribute, and companies are more than welcome to experiment and test it. In case you're attempting to use it, I would recommend installing the really Google gvisor on virtual machine on which you will be running this package, just to be just to have like an additional protection layer, just in case that this stuff might take inland. So where we start, the TaskForge platform is really abstracted out as a OpenAI chat completion. So you can connect to it using any type of chat browser, like the OpenUI, Open Web UI. In the chat, instead of selecting LLM models, you're actually selecting the agents which are present and implemented in the platform itself. We take the one which starts with the zero-claw implementation, so the Rust implementation of OpenClaw. And we already agreed here with Stefan that we'll try out an example application. We'll try to build an example application with a 2D simulation of a robotic arm. So by prompting it, we prepared this prompt with a typo, unfortunately, and we just send it, and then this actually is triggering an execution within the temporal framework. So temporal is a very interesting solution because it's an enterprise grade solution which provides a traceability of the processes. It assures for continuity, and it assures for visibility of every task. Now, what you can see that the agent recognized that it misses a particular capability. So it was executing up to this point, and then it requested some particular capability. Let's keep it waiting for a moment, and let's see what kind of it happened there in the background. So you see, we can see here that the agent was executing. In the first iteration, it used Gemini Flash latest as an underlying engine, and then it was trying to identify what kind of libraries it had at its disposal, which he found relevant for building that simulation. So it's seeing that it has like a Flask, it needs NumPy, Matplotlib, and so on. The agent is not able by itself to install those capabilities, so it raises a request. We can review this request within the TaskForge platform. Here you see, and we entered another one, and then user gets a full information on what kind of libraries are needed and what is the justification for installing those libraries. We just approve that. Once approved, the new image with this increased capability is being built in the background for us. Here we see the process of building that raised capability. This will take maybe a minute or two before the thing is compiled. And then once it will be compiled, the agent will be teleported to the new environment and it will continue its execution there. In the meantime, we can actually review this process in the task within the audit log. So audit log provides us a full visibility into what the agent was doing. Here you see it was trying to import and check the libraries, no module called Flask. So it had to kind of request that from you. And this turn ended with, or turn of activity of agent ended with raising the requests. Now, the image is still being built. So far, Stefan, is clear?
Yeah, I think it's very impressive in that way that you can follow every step, and you can also check with your own understanding. How did I build accessibility in this environment? So I can check all the time if it's doing something that it shouldn't be allowed to do.
Yes, exactly. That's the main purpose of the TaskForge platform, is to create for you a visibility of what the agent is doing at that particular moment. This is because of my kind of philosophy and approach to AI systems. I'm strong advocate of not releasing responsibility from people. I think the responsibility should always be with people, and this tool cannot really act fully on its own. It has to be within the boundaries. And this solution, I think it provides this. Let's see here, the agent was probing some stuff, was trying to testing new endpoints.
So the real challenge, it seems like, how do I design this decision process that should be implemented inside of TaskForge?
Yes, exactly. And you can also think about it from like a developer point of view. It moves you away a little bit from thinking in the terms of software solution to thinking in the terms of architecture of a software. it's a very profound change. But this architecture is a little bit different than cloud code, because in cloud code you're thinking on a level of subsystems, and here you're really able to leverage fully the whole workflow. For instance, I had an example where I requested this to pull some data from the Bitcoin online, from the Bitcoin APIs, and to store the data in some database. I have not specified the database. So LLM by itself picked up Redis database for that. Of course, you can discuss whether it's a good architectural solution, or choice, but it worked then. So you see here that our going back to agent, this performance agent was executing the job, and now it requested a deployment request. We can go into the review dashboard, and then this deployment request is the actual application which is running. Here we see some previous attempt which we had, a small glitch on the way. Now the application which was built during this development process by us, now it's being virtualized. We're building a Docker container for that. Once this build process is finalized, we can deploy it.
So just by stating the prompt, there is some background intelligence that knows what is necessary to be able to design this application and also to make it run as an application.
Yes, exactly. And you see here, we see here this robotic arm simulation ready. As you can see that it works in a little bit glitch way, because probably it started to render some images on fly. I'm here clicking the things on screen. We can change the manipulator position. I would say, yeah, and we have all the readings as we requested on fly created. Now, I think it has some problem with like a refresh rate there. So we would have to kind of go back to our conversation we had here, and then prompted to resolve the refresh rate because it's glitchy and so on and so forth. But that's more like a more proper simulation. Yeah. So yeah, it worked out of, we came from our starting point was an idea for a prompt. In this journey, we tasked an agent, an OpenClaw-like agent in the TaskForge platform. The platform itself gave us a full visibility into what is needed and what kind of steps the agent did during the building process. Here we see whole audit trails, deliverables, and how the agent came to that particular solution, which I think, Stefan, will be super interesting for business, because it creates this visibility and trail of reasoning.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it also builds its own container, right? I mean, now you run it on a virtual machine, and on that machine, you still need to contain the application, the agent system in some way, so it doesn't do anything it's not allowed to do on the virtual machine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, basically the activity of the agent, we can even check it now, it ceased. It stopped executing anything because it's not requested to do anything. So there is no more background activity. The process doesn't run anything. It was initiated here. We interfered in the process. New capability was built. It iterated on the task and finished. The task from the agent has a start and end.
Yes, and everything is fully visible, and it's traceable, and you can go into every part of the execution process and analyze that and see if everything was performed in the way that you wanted it to be.
Yeah, exactly. I can here kind of go into that particular one long step which was there, and this is the whole hot process of the agent executed. Yeah. This is the most recent.
Amazing. And when you started, you chose an agent, you choose the performance agent.
Yeah.
But can that also be a system of agents, or do you need to trigger more agents like the perform agents during the whole sequence if you want to use a system capability?
Stefan, that's an excellent question. And this platform is still very young. It's 3 weeks old, more or less. So my next objective is actually to allow the user for dynamic definition of something which I'm referring temporarily as a task forces. So the user could spam and then decide that this particular task force is orchestrated in such a way, and it has a particular meeting point where the agent are able to kind of exchange information and then reason about that stuff. That kind of orchestration should allow us to have a full insight into the decision-making process, and should actually trigger, for instance, a way better research results. If we kind of apply this TaskForge platform for research purposes, then from the front end, it would be the task force would be just visible as yet another chat endpoint.
And is it possible to, I mean, you build experience as you go, of course, and maybe you will save some prompts that you think that, okay, these prompts are particularly useful to reuse. Is it suitable for this kind of template thinking in how you want to work with it?
Exactly. This is a spot-on question also, Stefan, because if we have some particular prompt or process which is behind the prompt, because that's more like a process which is behind the prompt, which brings a lot of value, we can lock that in. Or my intention is to enable functionality in which we lock that particular prompt within the platform, and we are able to trigger it every time as like a background process for learning processes. Think about it like a controlled way for automatic reply to emails or weekly briefing preparation for business meetings.
Yeah, this is it's very interesting, and I think it's very innovative also in every part, in every kind of business model where you have a development team that runs improvements on your own digital platform, where all your products or services that your clients are using and paying for is running.
Yes, I'm absolutely looking forward to further collaborations on the platform. As I mentioned, the page is open source, so everybody could contribute to that. And I'm looking forward to get some additional feedback about the platform itself.
One aspect that I think was particularly interesting is we talked about it in the beginning, that if you are investing in a lot of AI capability and you don't integrate that capability with the decision process or the execution process, nothing will really happen, and it will not really create any value in that sense. But there is some organizations I've seen that use the word decision-centric in their way, how they structure their playbooks and how they also build the culture around the teams that they use for development. And that seems to be a great fit for this kind of product.
I'm happy that you see it that way. The intention is really to have for this platform is to have humans which are in charge and in control of the whole process. So, and platform is flexible enough to provide that functionality out of the box for anyone. So if the organizations are are building the structures in such a way that they can leverage that, that's the perfect fit.
Yes, I think there is additional compounding value in this combination. As we said also in the beginning, that you need to have ownership of these different processes, that these different components that should be integrated for the total process of value creation to work. And the explicit decision ownership is kind of a condition for being able to utilize the TaskForge and to create value out of the TaskForge platform, because that becomes like a execution ownership part of the process.
So, ideal environment where this platform could be used are any kind of environments or businesses which really need explicit control over the processes. So, for instance, finance, for instance, industry, especially you need a full chain of why that particular decision was made. Think about a use case in which TaskForge platform is used for resolving the 8 disciplines questions around particular customer issues. So 8D questions, 8 disciplines questions are kind of used in a automotive industry, for instance, quite a lot. So that would be a good place where the agent can move around and freely select the data from which he has to pick up the stuff in order to build situational awareness for engineers working on task resolution. This is just one of the examples which comes to my head.
Yeah, I think it fits perfectly into regulated environments or business sectors, as you say, like financial services, healthcare, life science, industrial manufacturing, or agriculture, maybe food production. Everywhere where there is a regulation that states that the company in its product offering is not allowed to do whatever they want. And that kind of plays straight into the purpose of the TaskForge, that you want to help companies to restrict what the digital part or the AI part of their production is allowed to do.
And and it goes back to a little bit the underlying mechanism of why those LLM systems. Maybe I stop sharing the screen. And why those LLM systems are actually behaving the way they behave. So they are very often unpredictable because of their stochastic nature, in a way. So this platform was really an answer to that. How we could contain the stochasticity, because there are a lot of businesses, regulated businesses, which absolutely cannot function in a uncertain way. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't even realize that, but our world as we know it wouldn't be able to function if we have a lot of stochasticity inside of some of the processes. Like 100 million payment process in a bank cannot be executed in a stochastic way. There has to be a guardrail which enforces that.
Yeah, totally agree. And I also think that maybe there is some kind of misunderstanding in this context also, because what we are really talking about is a probabilistic part and a deterministic part. Looking at the LLMs or the generative AI models as the probabilistic part, they are more of a suggestion, you can say, or it helps you on the way to find the proper path to the solution that you really want to execute.
And then
but once you have this insight and you make a decision that, okay, this is the way, I want to execute it, and I also understand the consequences, then that execution needs to be deterministic. So you can control it, so you also can have a full traceability and accountability for your decision.
It's very interesting because we almost see that in this prompt creation. We started with a blur description of this robotic simulation, and then the LLM constrained the solution to one example, one instance of very simple but still process. Yeah. And same kind of thinking methodology, I think, is a super powerful analogy for that. That we, as you said, we're starting broad with a full prompt, and then we're getting one of the deterministic solutions for that problem.
Yes, I think that if more users of the generative AI models start maybe to think in that way, that, okay, this is suggestions or this is a simulation where I try to find out which path I want to use. And I mean, I come from a financial background, from investment and portfolio management, and this is everyday work. Before you make an investment decision, you do simulations. You need to find out if there is a good trade-off between risk and reward, and what might be the most catastrophic outcome, and can I accept that? So this is the discovery part, you can say. It's the simulation, and when you have identified that path, you want to have a deterministic execution. Great, Roman, and thank you very much for your demonstration here. And I just love the features and how this fit into a layer of the AI stack now that I think a lot of organizations actually struggle with, and there is a growing discussion around this issue with governance and how should I put it, controllability, and have both visibility, traceability, and audibility, so it actually fits into a regulated environment. I'm also curious about when you think about enterprise platforms or DevSecOps teams, how does this platform of TaskForge create value in that environment?
So, of course, we have this full component of auditability, which comes out of the box and which is immediately a value for DevSecOps, because they need to have the traceability into whatever is happening. Of course, you have the component of the supply chain, which you can predefine and tailor it to your particular needs within your organization. A lot of organizations, they are using their own supply chains. So you can kind of redirect those supply chains, which OpenClaw is using, to a trusted ones. We still have to have a confidency within the OpenClaw that it provides. It should be still treated with a bit of as a unsecure code. It comes from unknown developers, so it has to be treated in such a way. So one of the ways for kind of protecting that is to constrain the supply chain. Yeah. And then you have the full visibility into the artifacts which are built by the OpenClaw itself. So you see all the Docker images. You have recipes for those Docker images, and you have a fixed environment where the agent is executing its tasks. I think this creates a full table from DevSecOps, from which DevSecOps people can really pick and choose.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, we talked about it in the beginning that the OpenClaw, the Clawbot in itself, in its very simple and intuitive construction of the components, it also have earned maybe a too bad reputation because of maybe people don't understand the experimental side of things and the power of simulation and the learning, the value of the learning that comes out from this kind of experimentation and simulation. And then to bring all that insights and new earned knowledge into more of a safer and controlled environment. And in terms of how the regulatory pressure is growing now around AI inside of enterprise organizations, what do you think could be a good trigger for the demand of the TaskForge? What needs to happen for the regulatory pressure to just say, you need to have this kind of product?
So I think first thing is there has to be a decision on where agentic systems, how they should be treated from a regulatory point of view. Because nowadays it's completely unknown how to approach that stuff. Yeah. Regulators, and don't quote me on that because I'm not that super following regulatory field, but regulators tend to be a little bit back with their way of approaching problems. And now, as more organizations will like to use that kind of agentic systems, there will be also regulatory field being created. I can give you an example how some organizations are looking at agents. Some of them say that the ability of agent should be as the user who triggers particular action. Yeah. So, in a sense, user is delegating its execution ability to the agent itself. I have my own opinion about it. I think that goes too far. That's my point of view. That's why actually, and it's manifested in the way I constructed TaskForge. Yeah, user has to have a control over every processing step. That's why the auditability. I trust what I see. So, and I see the logs. I'm able to read through that stuff.
Yeah, I totally agree, and it's also like we said in the beginning, when some companies, they create their playbooks and they create the culture around owning the decision of what you create, and also creating their playbooks around what is actually allowed to exist in this environment. What is a proper decision that is allowed to exist in the business model or in the business environment? And I think this can be a very important step, because this is a question of understanding, I think, an understanding about how important is decision-making for the value creation of the organizational performance, and also how risks are either managed or where they grow, so to say, where they might appear.
And here actually in this context, TaskForge platform clicks perfectly because it creates this visibility, and then on the top of the events which happened, you can do the risk assessment on particular steps. Yeah, and this risk assessment is actually and should be staying with a human decision maker.
Yeah, that sounds like a very valuable conclusion, that every organization that starts to understand that being decision-centric will also discover even greater value by being executional-centric in a way of the ownership, that these decisions is allowed to exist, and there is a clear stated way of who owning the decisions and why, and also who is owning the executions and why.
And why? Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you want to add before we wrap up here, Roman? How do you see the future development of this platform, and is there anything you want to add to the conclusion of what we can expect of the coming future?
So I would say that I would structure this into a short time horizon and long time term horizon developments. In the short term, there are definitely things around the orchestration of multiple agents and really understanding how those kind of visibility can unlock for us a particular functionality. In the long-term process, we're seeing a demand for almost seamless integration with the cloud providers, because for now it's really constrained to our local execution environment, and I would like to unlock that the TaskForge platform can be your operating center for tasks, and then you're kind of unlocking the cloud capabilities by deploying those things seamlessly. So this is kind of short and longer term objectives.
Yes, that sounds very interesting. And thank you very much for being my guest here today and demonstrating your amazing product. And hopefully we will see more of TaskForge going forward.
Thank you very much, Stefan. And I would like to thank you for creating this opportunity to present the TaskForge platform. It's amazing to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being my guest today, Roman.
Yeah, you're most welcome.